Hello and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. Today's podcast is number 1340. The topic is nutrition and the title is You Don't Eat as Consistently as You Think. So let's go through a little kind of experience that I had recently, and we'll kind of extrapolate this and kind of talk about how it helps you. I do train other trainers, so I'm a personal trainer myself, and I've been a personal trainer for 20 years, and I do train other trainers. Actually, half of my online clients are personal trainers, so which is super exciting. I love it. It's one of the things I like about it is we often get into conversations about their clients. So they'll run into an issue, and I'll either help them with programming, like we have a ghost writing service where I will write programming for other trainers so they can learn from it and then use it themselves, like for their clients. So it's just a nice service, nice feature there. But I was talking with one of my clients who's a trainer, and we were discussing their clients sharing ideas, and then I asked them about their own nutrition. They said that they've been feeling overwhelmed with business growth, so they're trying to push like on social media, posting more, and they're looking to expand whether or not they want to join with a couple other trainers and get a larger facility. So it's kind of they're in a transition phase for themselves business-wise. And they said, due to that stress, due to the being overwhelmed, they've they haven't been tracking anything, but they've been eating pretty much the same thing every day. And immediately I was like, oh no, because I know that actually doesn't equate to consistent calories like we need it to be. So I was immediately like, oh crap, So the reason why this is an issue is this trainer, in part of growing their business, why they reached out and why they're working with me is that she's a female and she looks fit, like you would know that she works out, but she wants to be stronger. She wants to have more muscle mass. She wants to kind of get at that look beyond, okay, she looks like she works out, to, okay, she looks like she's a trainer. She looks like she does something. I need to talk to that girl. So that's where she wants to get to. And I reminded her that in order for her to reach her goals, including business goals, is her personal goals, like how she wants to progress. So we do need to be more consistent with calories and protein, regardless of feeling stressed. Now, I understand stress. I've dealt with it myself, and there are ways in which we can back off of like time invested into different tracking models. However, you do still have to have some kind of baseline of tracking. So we've talked about that in past podcasts, and that's not what I want to get into too much here today, so I'll move on past that. But there are reasonable kind of seasons of life and ways in which you would track things depending on the season you're in. What I was reminding her is let's go down to one of those ones that's still tracking, but with it gives respect to the stress that you're feeling. And what I wanted her to do was recognize, because this is something she used to make the mistake of before, is that you can train all you want. You can damage the tissues in the gym, but what's building the tissues? So when we're in the gym, we're actually breaking muscle tissue down. What is going to build new muscle tissue bigger than what was there before? Nutrition, protein. So you have to eat to get muscle tissue. If she's eating randomly, then we're only going to get random growth, which is absolutely not what she wants, and it's not what really anybody wants. So her idea of how do you manage stressful times is she makes sure that she crushes her training, but she lets her food wander. Nope, not going to work, hasn't worked in the past, so my job is to kind of teach her how to do it another way. So towards that, I asked her to write down her foods for 3 days. I don't care about the measurements. Don't write down how much was each food. I just want you to simply write what you ate. She sent back her 3-day log, and she noted that in sending it back, simply having to write everything down already showed her that she wasn't as consistent as she thought. And that was, an underlying point that I knew would be made. And then the rest of it is going to be made through today's podcast. Is if we look at her breakfast, for example, her breakfast serves also as a pre-workout. So she'll eat breakfast and then she'll train herself. She eats again and then she gets into training clients and stuff. So her breakfast is a big breakfast. in the sense of calories and protein wise because we wanted to fuel her workout. She's waking up in a fasted state. No kind of preparatory fuel available, so we have to give all of it in breakfast. So if somebody works out in the afternoon, they might have had, the accumulation of breakfast, maybe a snack and lunch, and then they would work out. So they're not working out on like an emptied reserve situation. So this client is working out in the mornings. We have to put a lot of calories in. Her breakfast that she's supposed to normally have is Greek yogurt, fruit, which I prefer that she eats banana, but sometimes she eats other things. Greek yogurt, fruit. She has protein powder mixed with baby food oatmeal, like oats powder. That was her choice. So you can get baby food oats, which is just ground oats into like a really fine powder, and she adds that to her protein shake. That's her normal food. But, and she did have that on days 1 and 2, but she noted on day 3, she woke up late. So she said, I had to get something in quick, but I made sure I still got my quick digesting protein and my quick digesting carbs, even though I was running late. So she had the protein powder and a banana. Now, this is something a lot of people do, is she ate something that was quote unquote good enough. But was it really? And this is what I want to cover today. We don't eat as consistently as we think. So her normal breakfast is Greek yogurt, fruit, protein powder, and then the baby oats. What she had in a quick rush was protein powder and banana. She paid attention to, what she made note of, was the fact that it was quick digesting protein and carbs. And that is something to consider. But is it the most impactful thing for her progress? In podcast 1232, Nutrition Podcast titled Start Here, we talk about kind of what are the most important things to consider and address, what's the proper order to address things when it comes to nutrition. Number 1 is calories, number 2 is protein, number 3 is distribution, kind of timing of the calories and protein, and then number 4 is food type. And that then leads to, do we have fats, do we have carbs, do we have, slower digesting carbs or faster digesting carbs? So what she made note of, what she made sure she did, quote unquote, correctly, was number 4 on the list. But what did she miss? Numbers 1 and 2. She got the timing right because she did eat something right before she worked out. So she got number 3 right, she got number 4 right. Distribution and timing is number 3. Food type is number 4. But she missed number 1 and 2. She missed the 2 most important things. So let's look through this. If we look at the estimated calories for breakfast number 1, like her normal breakfast she should have, which would be the Greek yogurt, fruit, protein powder, and baby oat powder. I know her serving sizes because I write her nutrition plan. And it equates to around 565 calories and 46 grams of protein. What she had instead equated to 225 calories and only 25 grams of protein. So the I'm running late quick breakfast was half the calories and half the protein. The macronutrient type was correct. The timing of the food was correct. But again, she missed the 2 most important things, calories and protein. In the communication I wrote back to her today, I asked her to time herself the next time she makes her full breakfast. I literally want her to time how long it takes her to make her full breakfast. Now, this is going to make me a total smartass, and I'm aware of that, and thankfully she's okay with it, is what she skipped was grabbing a prepackaged cup of Greek yogurt out of her fridge, and putting that half a cup scoop of oat powder into her protein powder shake. That's it. So what she missed was just grabbing a prepackaged thing out of the fridge. How long does that take? Maybe 5 seconds. How long would it take her to put the scoop of baby oats in, considering she was already putting in the scoop of protein powder, which is where she keeps the baby oats, probably, I'm assuming. So that might have to unscrew the lid or whatever you got to do to the lid of the baby oats, pour it in a half a scoop, like a half a cup container, pour it into the drink, maybe 30 seconds. So in total, if we're being generous, it might be 60 seconds that she quote unquote saved by doing a quick breakfast. Our perceptions of reality cannot always be trusted. And this goes for a lot more than just breakfast. But she felt like she was too late to get her full breakfast. She didn't get the full breakfast because of 1 minute. 1 minute. It would have been better for her to skip one working set from her workout, which would be roughly about a minute, than to have skipped 1 minute getting the right breakfast. Missing the correct food made the entire workout less effective, whereas missing one working set probably would have had like a negligible difference. Now, looking through the rest of her foods, there's other small little variances that happen and that are very common of other people. So, for example, one of the nights she had chicken and rice. The other nights she went out to eat and she had steak and a potato. Both those meals are a meat and a carb, right? You know, chicken is protein, rice is carbs. Steak is protein, potato is carbs. So both of them are a meat and a carb. So they're pretty much the same thing, right? You probably can guess that no is the answer. The chicken would be roughly, let's say 4 to 5 ounces. We're going to say it's around 200 calories, around maybe 30 to 40 grams of protein. And these are all kind of estimates based on, you know, the exact weight and blah, blah, blah. But it's giving you kind of the general idea. So 4 to 5 ounces of chicken is roughly 200 calories, roughly about 35 grams of protein, something like that. The steak, same serving size, 4 to 5 ounces, was probably more so around 300 calories with similar protein. So there's a 100 calorie difference in just the meat. Why is that different? Well, the steak has more fats than the chicken does, so therefore it has more calories. The rice. How much rice did she have? Did she have 1 or 2 cups? Like 1 to 2 cups of rice is around 200 to 400 calories. A medium-sized white potato is only around maybe 100 calories. So counting the variance of the chicken and steak, the variance of the rice and the potato, the chicken and rice meal would have been maybe somewhere around 400 to 600 calories depending on the amount of rice. The steak and potato meal might have been around maybe 400 calories depending on the size of the potato. So it could have equaled out if she had had 1 cup cooked rice. The meals might be very similar. But if she had 2 cups of cooked rice, which is not too easy to eat, it's not too hard to overeat that, it might have been an extra 100 calories. So breakfast, being similar but different, could make a 100 calorie difference. Dinner, being similar but different, could make a 100 calorie difference. If you expand this across multiple meals over multiple days, it would be very easy to have 300 to 500 calorie swings from day to day. And this is actually what I commonly see when looking through nutrition data for clients. So a lot of my online clients, they track their nutrition using a nutrient tracking app. MyFitnessPal, MyMacros, stuff like that. And then I log into their account, I look through what they eat every day, and then give them feedback every day. And this is commonly what I see is some of the clients, if they're very consistent, they might have 100 to 200 calorie kind of difference from day to day. But others have a 300 to 400 calorie difference from day to day. And this is when they track what they're doing. So imagine what the difference would be if they're not tracking. So if you want to make progress, whether it's building muscle, losing fat, getting ready for a competition, whatever it might be, if you're training with a desired outcome from that training, are you properly fueling the adaptations for your efforts? You're doing the work in the gym, but are you supporting that work to actually get the intended result from it? You may think you're eating, quote unquote, pretty much the same food every day. But you may also be surprised how different similar foods can be where it matters most, which is in calories and protein. if you don't currently track anything and you want to kind of see, okay, well, this brings to light something that I wonder if I'm having the same issue as well. Is that why I'm not making any progress? So if you don't track anything, do what I had the client do. Just write down what you eat. Don't even worry about serving sizes or anything like that. You don't have to measure anything. Just write down the foods that you eat and the times that you eat them for 3 days. Simply having to write them down will automatically make you more consistent, but you'll also still see inconsistencies. If you do track your foods, well then get on it. Track your foods and see the difference firsthand. So if you haven't tracked in a while or you track sporadically, track it for 3 days consistently. If you see a difference between the days, work to normalize them. And that'll likely help you get progress. And you don't even necessarily have to be quote unquote like doing anything different. You're just going to do what you thought you were already doing, but you're going to do it better. 3 podcasts I think can help. Number 1 would be podcast number 1232, Nutrition, titled Start Here. So definitely go listen to that. Another helpful one is podcast 1280, which is a nutrition podcast titled Managing Food Entries in Nutrient Tracking Apps. So if you want to get better at entering your foods into apps, that would be a great one to listen to, podcast 1280. And then also podcast 658 is a nutrition podcast titled Diet Tracking, Getting the Most from the Least. And what that refers to is all you have to do when you track foods is pay attention to calories and protein. Don't pay attention to carbs and fats. They don't matter. They don't matter yet. How about that? If you listen to podcast number 1232, the one that's titled Start Here, you're going to realize that carbs and fats don't matter unless your calories and protein are consistent. If you're worried about carbs and fats, but you don't have consistency in your calories and protein, then whatever you adjust in carbs and fats won't make a damn bit of difference, and they won't make the result that you want them to make. Because there isn't a base of what is needed for fat and carbs to actually matter, to them to actually make a predictable difference. You have to track calories and protein, and for most people, if they track that, that's plenty enough for them to get the results they want. Okay. Well, I hope this was helpful. I hope it kind of raised an eyebrow or got your attention that if you think that you pretty much eat the same food every day, but you haven't been tracking, and you literally don't actually eat the actual same foods, you just eat very similar foods, then I would definitely encourage that you track, see how different it really is. Maybe you find out it's not that much different. Awesome. At least then you know, rather than assume. We don't want to assume, because we know what that does to us. So we don't want to assume, we want to know. So track it for a couple days, write it down for a couple days, see what it is, know for a fact if what you're doing is consistent or not, because then if it's not, you can change it and then you can get further progress with your efforts. Cool. Well, if you have any questions, if you need anything at all, my email is brutalironjim@gmail.com. Always thank you for listening. So if you do like our podcast today, or our podcast in general, please consider sharing it. The more people we share it with, the more people can help. Sharing it on social media does reach the most amount of people, so that is the most impactful way. I appreciate that if you do it. Also, thank you to the patrons of the podcast, the people who financially support the podcast. We do have a podcast donation link on our website, www.brutalironjim.com. You can go there and do a one-time donation, monthly donation, yearly donation. However you do it, I appreciate it that you do it. The podcast is well over $1,000 a year for hosting costs. I give an hour to it every single day. I really appreciate the financial support. It really helps make sure that we can continue to do this for free and every single day. If you like the information we share in our podcast, you can always find more from us on our social media channels on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube under the name Brutal Iron Jim. If you have any questions, feedback, suggestions, anything that you want to know, let us know at our email, brutalironjim@gmail.com. As always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening.